Let's focus on the Browns. Andrew Berry, GM of the team. Here he is talking about Odell Beckham Jr.'s rehab from his torn ACL in the 2020 season.
I'll say this about perhaps all of our injured guys. They're all progressing really well, and that includes Odell. I mean, I think he's right on track.
Anything change with him in terms of the role you see on him on this team going forward and potentially fitting in with the rest of the offense the way it played so well down the stretch last year without him?
No, I think he's a dynamic player who can be incredibly productive in this system. So we're looking forward to getting him back healthy.
Scale of 1 to 10, Myles, what are the chances Odell Beckham Jr. is with the Browns in 2021?
Interesting. I think an 8. I think that they should keep him because if Odell Beckham Jr. is healthy, then he's exactly the piece that offense, I think, needs in order to take itself to the next level. And I know that the offense got better once Odell Beckham Jr. got hurt. Yes, that it was unequivocally true. But I think the other aspect of that is, and Kevin Stefanski talked about this a few times, they were still getting to know the players because there was no offseason. There was a limited training camp. So by the time Odell Beckham Jr. goes out, it's like, all right, we really are starting to figure out what we should call, what we shouldn't call, what Baker Mayfield is great at. And as the season goes on, then I think you see that. And I also think when you look at like that Chiefs playoff game that they played and that they ended up losing, that's the kind of role that Odell Beckham Jr. can play that the Browns really, really need. They need somebody to take the top off of defense. They need somebody who can be a dynamic receiver. Now, can Odell Beckham be that kind of dynamic receiver coming off an ACL tear? We'll have to see. But I think that at least for right now, it makes way more sense for the Browns to keep him than it would for the Browns to get rid of him.
His salary is guaranteed as a practical matter, injury guaranteed until March 17 or 19, something like that. When it becomes fully guaranteed, they can't cut him because of the torn ACL. He can't pass a physical. So I've got several different points that I'm going to refer to. As of the start of the league year, it's a 10. He'll be on the roster. Start of training camp, it's a 9. Start of the regular season, 8.5. Trade deadline, 6.5. Because I think there's a chance once he shows he's healthy and once the Browns realize we really don't need him to do our offense the way we want to do our offense, and if anything, his presence is a drag on Baker Mayfield going through his progressions because he feels like he has to hold on to the ball a little bit longer until OBJ comes open, and there's this constant got to get him the ball. I could see him being traded to someone once he establishes he's healthy between the start of the season and the Tuesday after Week 8.
See, that makes a lot of sense to me, but I didn't know we would be able to play the game in 4 different spots. So you always change the rules on me in the middle of the game. Right? So,
yes. There are no official rules of scale of 1 to 10. It's whatever you want them to be. Here's Brad Holmes, Lions general manager, on how he feels about the quarterbacks in this draft, even though he is just about 12 days away from officially acquiring Jared Goff from the Rams.
I think that the quarterback class is good this year. I think I like the crop of quarterbacks that are coming out in this year's draft. So that's obviously always a very, very important position. You know, I think the quarterback position in general, what's cool about this year is that, you know, they're in all different flavors. You know, you have a guy that actually can do it all, can, you know, do it from the pocket, do it with his legs. You have another guy that's probably a little bit more, does it with his legs, a little bit more being creative. There's another guy that actually probably does it more from the pocket. So all the different flavors makes it very, very intriguing in terms of when you're looking across the whole scope of, you know, the class of these quarterbacks.
As I mentioned earlier, Sims sees 6 guys who could go in round 1. The Lions sitting there at number 7. 2 guys at a minimum will be gone before the Lions are on the clock. The question is whether or not a Mac Jones or one of the other quarterbacks is taken before number 7. And then the question becomes, what do the Lions do if a quarterback that they potentially like is there at 7? So what are the chances they go quarterback at 7, Myles? Scale of 1 to 10.
I think it's a 7 or 7.5 to 8 because if I am Brad Holmes and if I'm Dan Campbell, I want to find my guy who is going to be the guy, the alpha of the future. And so I think that when you are in that position, and in theory, you might not be there ever again. You know, you at least want to not be drafting that high ever again. They probably will, just based on the way it seems like they know that this is going to be a multi-year process with Detroit. They probably may have an opportunity to select in the top 10 again. But if they're one of those guys that you really fall in love with, and one of them at least is one of those quarterbacks is at least going to be there at number 7 overall when they pick, then I think you have to be able to choose him. Because look, I think about the Cardinals and what they did trading up to get Josh Rosen, and then obviously they were bad the next year, and so they picked a number 1 overall and they picked Kyler Murray. Can we really say that the Cardinals made that much of a mistake by drafting Josh Rosen? I don't know. I mean, they had another opportunity and they've certainly made it right since then. So if you have this opportunity and there's a guy you think you love, then I would say go for it. But I also think it's kind of funny that Brad Holmes is talking about drafting quarterbacks and how much he likes them and almost making it seem like ice cream and Neapolitan and flavors and things like that, when he also was part of the team that drafted Jared Goff in 2016. So it's not like they don't have a quarterback that he knows well, Mike.
That's right. And, you know, part of the game is to make it look like you are going to take a quarterback, because that gives value to that pick in the event that someone wants to trade up and get it. And it's also imperative that they do their homework on all the quarterbacks so they know what that pick is worth if someone is trading up to get the quarterback. Because they're not trading up because they just want to be able to say, hey, we had the 7th pick in the draft. They're trading up because there's a guy they want. And if it's a quarterback, then you need to know everything there is to know about that quarterback so you can have meaningful trade negotiations about what that guy is truly worth, because that's who you're trading. You're trading that quarterback, not the 7th pick in the draft. So either way, they need to do the work. They need to understand. And along the way, if they fall in love with one of the guys and say we could groom him for a year behind Jared Goff, then so be it. But I feel like Goff's a 2-year option anyway because of his contract. But, yeah, again, you have to go into this with open eyes, open heart, open mind, and you may find a guy who's your quarterback for as long as Matthew Stafford was. All right, one more real quickly. Brian Gutekunst, the Packers general manager, here he is this week talking about 2020 first-rounder Jordan Love potentially getting some reps this season.
I think it's very important for Jordan to get as many live reps, and that's not just him, but all young players, specifically quarterbacks. I think as we move, if that does transpire, where we get to the 3 preseason games, I think prior to last year, I probably would have told you that wasn't going to concern me as much, but after going through a season without preseason games, I realize how valuable and how important that they are. With Jordan specifically, yeah, I think it was disappointing we weren't able to get him out there in the preseason this year. Looking forward to it this year. The more the better. Guys get better through playing. Practice is always important, but the live game reps for all players is something you can't replace.
Scale of 1 to 10, what are the chances that Jordan Love gets meaningful reps in 2021? Oh, by the way, Aaron Rodgers still on the team and will be on the team.
See, well, it depends on what date you're asking me about this, because if it's the month of August, and the definition of meaningful, because meaningful for him should be even playing at all, because he didn't, and he was the 3rd-string quarterback, and he was inactive for game day basically all year. So I'm going to say in August, it's a 10. And then once we get to September, it's a 2, because he needs to play in the preseason if there are preseason games. And I think we can all anticipate that there are going to be 3 with the 17-game season. That's at least the way the wind is blowing. So Jordan Love certainly needs to play sometime in order to be somewhat prepared to be the backup quarterback to Aaron Rodgers. And then once that happens, I mean, unless Aaron Rodgers gets hurt, I don't think that there's any chance that guy is seeing the field.
Yeah, look, I think that the chances of Jordan Love getting meaningful reps in the regular season is 1 or less than 1. And the only way it's higher than that is if Aaron Rodgers gets injured. And I do not want to be accused by anyone of directly or indirectly putting the jinx on Aaron Rodgers by talking openly about the possibility that he will be injured. In fact, I've already said too much about it, Myles.
Well, I think you probably have. Yes, we should probably just stop talking, huh?
So Jordan Love, very, very low chance that he's going to play this year. However, Gutekunst made some comments that would suggest that it wasn't Gutekunst, it was Nathaniel Hackett the offensive coordinator. You wrote the post at PFT. The idea of they want Jordan Love to make the offense his own. It's awkward because he's under contract 3 more years, 5th-year option. At some point in the next 4 years, we're getting these vibes. He's going to be the quarterback, and Aaron Rodgers may want to stay for at least 4 more years. So the rubber's going to meet the road at some point, and whether that means Aaron Rodgers hits the road, it's not something to ignore, and it does create tension. But that tension, I think, helped the Packers, Myles, get to 13-3 last year.
Yeah, it probably did. But I did kind of find that weird when he says we want him to make the offense his own. It's like, how can you possibly make the offense your own when ostensibly you're going to be a backup quarterback? Unless Nathaniel Hackett knows something that we don't, and Aaron Rodgers is not going to be there in 2021. I mean, that is still Aaron Rodgers' offense, and it should be Aaron Rodgers' offense until he proves that he's no longer playing at a level where it should be Aaron Rodgers' offense. And so, yeah, that's an interesting thing. I mean, obviously you want the quarterback that you take in the first round to feel like he has some sort of ownership over something so that if he does need to come in there, he feels comfortable. But I think there's a difference between comfort and then taking control where it's his, if that makes sense, Mike.
And by the way, there is potential with Jordan Love. There's been so much talk this week about Sims' 2021 quarterback rankings. Last year it went Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Jordan Love, Tua Tagovailoa. So high enough opinion of Love to put him ahead of Tagovailoa.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.